So there we go. So we are now recording the meeting. We'll be able to share this along with the slide deck to everyone who is in attendance. If you have colleagues who've RSVP'd, we'll also make sure they get it if they were not able to make it in the end. But thank you for joining us in the information session today. So this is for the DOLA CDO Accessory Dwelling Unit Grant Program. This is a grant program that goes out to local governments, not directly to homeowners. So I think we did try to let anyone we thought might have been an individual resident know that the focus of the meeting would be on this grant program that goes to their local municipalities to eventually benefit them, of course. But if you are, feel free to drop off, or if you're curious just to listen in. But certainly, we just want to make it clear that the actual application, you have to be a local government to apply. We'll discuss a little bit further. We'll give some pointers to some resources that are becoming available next year for individual residents towards the end, but just wanted to get that out in front. So to introduce myself, I am the ADU Grant Program Manager, Jack Wolflink. Go to Nicola.
Hi, I'm Nicola Donovan. I'm the program assistant for the ADU program, and I know I've worked with some of you before, so it's good to see you guys again, and it's good to see all the new faces as well.
And what is the Accessory Dwelling Unit Grant Program? So it came out a state statute. The statute has two components, of which this is one. This is the grant component. Many of you will have already been may already be familiar with the supportive jurisdiction / compliance component, which this touches on, and the compliance component is required in order to be able to apply for the grant. But this is specifically for that side of things. And if you have questions about the compliance component that we can answer, we'd be happy to direct you back to the technical assistance team, which does handle that. There's also $8 million of funding that goes through CHAFA that CHAFA is launching next year. It'll be funding that supplies local lenders to provide financial vehicles for those individual residents. So that's the program that if you are a homeowner, will be coming online through another organization, and we can share information about that if you're interested. But that is kind of the third component of the law. So we also want to make sure that we mention that that this $8 million in additional funding is available to ADU supportive jurisdictions through that compliance component I just mentioned. So that's kind of the three legs of the stool here. If you come up through, if your jurisdiction becomes a supportive jurisdiction, you're eligible to apply for the grant program, as well as enabling local lenders to use these $8 million of funds to support local residents. So what does the ADU grant program fund? So there are kind of two buckets that we have here. So under planning activities, there are pre-approved designs. In our first grant round, we had four pre-approved design applicants. So this is something that basically allow for homeowners to have like an off-the-shelf approved plan that they can just implement rather than having to go through design review steps, since it'll be a design that will have already gone through those steps for your municipality. Then there is development of an ADU incentive program, an outreach program. We have one grantee working on something like that. And then provisions of technical assistance to people converting or constructing ADUs. So a number of different ways that you can go about that would apply here, kind of like flyers, instruction brochures, websites, other forms of helping guide residents through the process of converting or constructing an ADU. And then finally, the second bucket is the financial assistance bucket. So this is funding to provide waivers, fee reductions, or other forms of financial assistance for those constructing ADUs. This one is handled a little bit differently than the three planning activities. So so we'll get to the amount of funding available later, but there's no technical limit to the amount of funding that you can request. Obviously, we don't make any promises about programs being accepted or the full amount of funding being granted to you, but you can certainly request. You can certainly put in a big request if you are interested in doing that. The one restriction is that for this financial assistance bucket, there is a restriction in how much funding you can request, and that is going to be based on the number of ADUs you've already permitted. So if you have, the permit dates that we're looking at are the number of permits you've issued for ADUs between May 13th, 2024 and February 2nd, 2026, the open date of our round two grant application period. And you can request up to $15,000 times that number of previously permitted ADUs. And I say times that number just to make sure. We've had some confusion about whether the financial assistance is counted as a reimbursement for those previously permitted ADUs. It's not. It's just a formula for how much in these fee waivers, reductions, etc., that we're willing to entertain as your grant request. It's kind of an incentive grant for showing momentum on having permitted ADUs. Um, so, um, um, the and then but basically that becomes a pot of money for for fee waivers and things going forward in the grant period. So, which jurisdictions are eligible? So, as I mentioned earlier, the starting point is that these are for Colorado local governments. So that's municipalities, towns, cities, tribal entities, and on top of that, you must be in a certified ADU supportive jurisdiction. And that goes both for this program and that future funding vehicle that CHAP is developing. So what is an ADU supportive jurisdiction and how do you get to become one? So this is handled through that other side, the compliance section, and essentially you submit a report to us demonstrating that your municipality complies with the state statute regulating the regulations of ADU construction. So that's section in the bill HB 24-1152. We have a portal for you to submit that report to us. And then you should demonstrate that you have implemented at least one ADU supportive strategy. Basically something that already starts to get the ball rolling on encouraging and facilitating ADU construction and ADU management. So basically, once you are showing that you are enabling ADU development in your jurisdiction according to the requirements of that new statute, and also show that you're taking one additional action to further help permit and support ADU construction, then once we read that report and verify that those things are true, you count it as an ADU supportive jurisdiction and you can apply for funding. So the process is we have this infographic on the website that will kind of help walk you through it. So basically, step one is going through that compliance report. One note is that we have the ability to do some courtesy reviews. So we're not just asking you to upload your land use code and see what we make of it. Our technical assistance team is absolutely willing to preview it, let you know in advance what needs to be changed, and have that be an ongoing process so that when you're actually submitting the report, you've already done all the things you need to make sure it's successful. And also if the report, if there was a point of confusion or something and the report isn't fully compliant, we will still continue to work with you as long as you're willing to make it compliant and take whatever steps needed to bring your jurisdiction into that status. And then, of course, there is the supported strategy verification. So submitting that report, we'll check up on it. We'll let you know if you have anything that counts. And we have a list of 9 possible supported strategies, as well as the 10th wild card of a non-listed strategy that you come up with on your own that we still have to, of course, verify, but just some room for creativity there. There are 9 supportive strategies, but you only need to show yourself as having implemented one of them. You don't need to implement all 9. We'd love it if you did, of course, but it's by no means a requirement. You just need to look at one of them. And then finally, putting in that request will allow us to officially give you the stamp of the supportive certification. I want to quickly note that there can be some variability in how long this timeline is. So we certainly encourage everyone interested, and even if you're just interested and haven't decided whether or not you're going to apply for the ADU grant, to reach out to us and go through that courtesy review process. There are some jurisdictions who basically are already in compliance or very, very close to it. If they have a code that doesn't really have much stuff that calls out ADU specifically at all, it often may not be that much work, if any work, to change that to make those codes compliant with 1152. Also, some of the supportive strategies are things that jurisdictions will have already implemented. One of them is short-term rental regulations, for instance, and a lot of municipalities already have those on the books. So we encourage you to just come to us and request a courtesy review, even if you're just dipping a toe in the water here. It doesn't commit you to anything, and you might find out that you have a lot less work in front of you than you think. In addition, as well, we encourage sometimes if there are particularly thorny interpretation questions in your code, we also want to make sure that you have enough of a timeline to work through that with us and make any changes or clarifications that would be necessary. So in either case, we certainly recommend that you reach out to us with any of this as soon as you can if you're looking at the round 2 application. So, Nicola, if I could pass it to you for a bit to just summarize our ADU supported strategies.
Sure. I'm just going to give an overview here since they are listed on the website and obviously in the slides here. So if you already have some kind of a fee waiver or a rebate program, that is considered a supportive strategy. And even if you already have one, that doesn't mean you can't apply for funding for that through ADUG. Any kind of local code that incentivizes ADU affordability or workforce housing, that's a supportive strategy. Some places already have pre-approved plans. Montrose County and Summit County, for example, have pre-approved, or I'm sorry, the city of Montrose, not Montrose County, and Summit County have pre-approved plans for ADU construction, that is considered a supportive strategy. If you have some kind of an outreach or technical assistance program, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I know one that will be implemented is a town is going to, as part of their outreach, they will have a GIS story map so people can check their zoning and other considerations that might be applied to their ADUs. That's their technical assistance program. If you have regulated ADUs for short-term rentals, as I know many of you already have, that is considered a supportive strategy. And there's 5 more if you want to go through those, Jack, or go to the next slide. Thank you. Again, any local laws that are going to incentivize construction and conversion of accessible and visitable ADUs. And conversion in this case, just to clarify, just means converting an existing space to an ADU. It is not converting an ADU to be compliant if it wasn't compliant already. And if you have a program that does that, that helps people catch up with compliance, if their ADUs currently do not meet code or whatever the local law is, a program that helps them catch up with that is a supportive strategy. If you have a program that enables a pathway for the separate sale of an ADU, that is a supportive strategy. I don't think we've seen it as much here in Colorado, but that has been a bit of an issue in California, which has done a lot of ADU work. They've had a lot of discussion about separate sales of ADUs, but that would be a supportive strategy. If you are encouraging modular factory-built residential structures, that's a supportive strategy. And then this is our wild card. If you have some other strategy that promotes ADUs, construction, conversion, or just using ADUs, that could be considered a supportive strategy. If you want to use that in your application to be supportive jurisdiction, you do need to check with us first to make sure that it meets our requirements to be an approved strategy. But that doesn't have to be super formal. You can just email us. We can take a look at it and talk it over.
All right, so for some of the, so we have a number of guidance documents, and we would normally be trying to drop these in the chat as well, but we will include them in the email. Unfortunately, our link dropper has been running into some technical issues, but basically we have a list of supportive strategies. We have the ADU toolkit, which goes into these with examples, comparison points, etc. So there's a lot more detail about these supportive strategies that you can dig into. And then, of course, our applications come in through the grants program, the grants portal. Quick note that the grants portal is different from the land use and housing compliance portal. So you'll need an account for both, one to become certified as a supportive jurisdiction, and then one to actually apply for the grant program. We have a number of resources and instructional videos to help with navigating the grants portal if you have trouble with that. We have a number of online tools for contacting the technical assistance team if you have questions for them, as well as links to book meetings with us. And one quick note, one really quick note for the compliance aspect of the statute. There are some jurisdictions that are required to meet those that are required to comply with the regulations on ADU management in 1152. Because that deadline has already passed. That was a June 30th deadline. If you're a municipality that was subject to that deadline, we imagine you already know, since we have been giving notifications and follow-up about that. If you are a jurisdiction that has not been getting bombarded with those, or if you are, of course, fully aware of this and already in compliance, congratulations. you don't have to worry about that deadline. If you weren't required to bring your code into compliance by June 30, then your compliance is voluntary. There is no deadline, apart from, of course, making sure that you have everything in a row for being considered for the ADU grant application. You will see some aspects of that, but don't let that scare you unless you are coming in late, in which case we would be delighted. In which case, also don't let that scare you. We would still be delighted to work with you to bring you into compliance. Um, but yeah. So for the amount of funding available, we had about 1.6 million for the grant program in this fiscal year. We did have an initial grant round with about $900,000 in grants. So the remaining funding, about 700,000, we will be fully confirming that to the dot when we open the grant round when we officially open the round two grant round and announce that. I guess next month. It's getting very close here. So you'll know how much the round two has to distribute. And putting permitting, we are looking at a third grant round. So in the summer of 2026. So if you are looking at a bit of a longer timeline, we can still help you to be ready to apply for round three of the ADUG program. Another note, for all of our grant programs going forward, of course, the local governments must be in budget, audit, and election compliance by the time we execute grant agreements. So if you're still working on that, you can still apply to the grant program, but we want to make sure that by the time that if you are awarded, that everything is aligned there by the time we have your grant agreement to execute. We do have a minimum of a 25% local match. We understand that some jurisdictions have had some trouble with that, so we would love to talk to you one-on-one if you feel like that might be a challenge or a burden. We can look at such requests for reduced match and see if that's something that we would be able to accommodate based on your situation. But by default, it's that the default bar is going to be that 25% cash match. So a couple of the hot topic questions that we get are that firstly, what can be counted as matching funds? So it has to be costs that are eligible. Essentially, it has to be costs that are eligible to be paid for by the state. So if it's an eligible cost under the ADUG grant agreement, but it's being paid by the grantee using funds that come from outside of the Division of Local Government, those can be counted as matching funds. You can't use a different DLG grant. Like if you have an H plan grant or an LPC grant, these projects can synergize, as in they can be mutually supporting, but they can't be financially mutually supporting. You can't use an LPC grant as matching funds in your ADUG application. For estimating consultant costs, we'll work with you to build out the language and project scope for consultant activities. We want to help you get enough to get some quotes from consultants and have cost estimates for that. Since the ADUG program has a couple different possible ways that consultants can contribute, it'll definitely need to be tailored a little bit to that. So just kind of let us know what you're thinking. We are happy to have meetings with you prior to the grant application deadline to go over what you're planning and give you some guidance on how to fit that with what we can fund. And finally, part of the application is going to be requirement of official action, usually like a resolution to apply. Um, and we can note that the action does not need to be completed at the time of application, but let us know if that's the case. And give us the timeline for that, since we will need it for contracting and get that material to us when it is when the official action is taken ASAP. So for applying, I think I can have one. Um, well, so dropping the application guidelines in the chat there as well. So we have a plethora of materials available on our website to help you in framing and completing your application. They have to go through the grants portal. Let us know if you're having difficulty with that, and we'll try to assist. We very much recommend that you work up to your final draft of the application outside of the grants portal. There is a timeout. There's an auto logout function that our grants portal has, and that auto logout is not responsive to you typing something into the portal itself. So if you're writing out your narrative in the portal and it times out, you will lose any unsafe progress. So we very much recommend that you work on this outside. I think that's generally standard practice, but just to mention it here as well, we recommend that you work outside another document, and then just you can paste things in, get in under the timeline before the portal kicks you out, and then that way nothing will be missing. But certainly reach out if you are having any trouble accessing, logging into the portal. If you need, if your grant staff has had some turnover and you need alternative staff given access to it, we can manage all that. For applying, we have this link for confirming if you're a subject jurisdiction, in that you are required to meet that June 30th deadline for compliance or get an extension. We have that just in case you are in that situation, but we do believe that everyone has either already, all of the subject jurisdictions have already been managing that in some form or another. And if you are voluntarily coming into compliance with 152, you can feel free to ignore this subject map, since you are just deciding to come in of your own accord. And we have the application questions document that kind of goes into the narrative levels of prior support and capacity for it, the ability to upload letters of recommendation, letters of commitment, as well as the required attachments. So we also encourage you to do that. And if you're confused on any of them, we are happy to talk the application questions over with you. So we will be opening the application in the portal February 3rd, 2026, and then the last day, Friday, February 27th, 5 p.m. That's when the round 2 application will close. We will be announcing award decisions in March. We'll be basically scheduling out, depending on how big of a turnout we get. We'll read through everyone's applications and get back to you and give you notices of award. Another note is that notice, of course, is still not an executed contract, so don't put the cart before the horse and start making expenditures until we actually give you that fully signed contract document. We will let you know when spending can begin. And we estimate that would be kind of April. Going over the application attachments really quickly. So the project budget worksheet, that we have instructions on that, but basically that will support, we want to make sure that matches your narrative, and that we can see the line items that match the activities that you're planning to do. We need you to attach that supportive jurisdiction certification. That'll be a PDF that DOLA sends you, and So so make sure that you have that on hand, the official action, as I mentioned, and then that optional upload for other documents is also going to be available. All right. And a few more resources. We'll give you the link to the statute text itself. Definitely refer back to our webpage, the list of program guidelines and grant application questions. And then, of course, this is a DOLA grant, so the general DOLA funding guide will apply. Our technical assistance team will stand ready to help with any questions about that compliance, code language, regulation, etc. And the ADU toolkit has a bunch of great examples and additional language talking through those different supportive strategies, giving you examples of jurisdictions inside and outside of the state that have implemented them so that you can have some templates and guidance on what to do there. So, all right, I think I did see some short questions in the chat, but now we can pause for wrap up and more direct Q&A. You have our emails. We'll pop those in the chat as well. So please feel free to reach out to us with any questions. And also, yeah, so please feel free to raise your hand and go off mute if you'd like to ask a question.
While we wait for someone to come off mute, I wanted to ask, is there anyone on this call that works for local government that doesn't know whether or not your community is actually eligible for these funds, meaning you're both compliant and on track to be certified as a ADU supportive jurisdiction? If that is the case, could you either unmute and come off mute and let us know, or respond via chat? We'd love to help you navigate that process.
I think I saw someone come off mute. Oh no, they're back on mute. Okay.
I did add the link to the ADU supportive jurisdictions page in the chat. That will list the currently certified supportive jurisdictions. Right now, it's Boulder, Lyons, and
Larimer County.
thank you, Larimer County. There is an infographic in there, which is also in this slide, that goes over the process that Jack described. Just to clarify, because I know in our previous round, some municipalities were a little confused about this. If you are not a subject jurisdiction, meaning you're not required to comply with HB 24-1152, in order to be a supportive jurisdiction, you have to opt into that. So if you want to be a supportive jurisdiction, even if you're not required to, you would have to submit an ADU compliance report saying we are compliant with 1152 and here is how. And then you would still have to implement the supportive strategy. So if you're opting in, that's what you would do. You would still submit a compliance report. And if any of that is, confusing or you need more information on that, we can help you with that. But you do that in the Land Use and Housing Implementation Portal, which I know some of you have already used. It is sort of a one-stop shop for a lot of these compliance matters for the 24 land use housing legislation.
Nothing in the chat. I would also just add that we are available. It's our job to help you all get grant funds and make good use of them. So we do want to meet with you one-on-one. If you want to meet with us in a regional project or one-on-one, we can talk through potential application, what you are thinking about funding. If you're just not sure, do you want to package an application that includes all of the items that we're able to fund or just a couple of them? We're happy to workshop and talk through. We've done that for the first round of awarded communities. So just know that we are available. Jack has a function on his Gmail that allows you to see his calendar, plug in some times. And again, we're available to meet before the holidays, after the holidays, but just know that the applications start in February And we just want to make sure that you all have time to be ready to not only be eligible, but time to put together a good application that your local government and elected body can approve. So eager to work with you all. And for anyone that's not with a local government, but a resident of a local government, don't forget to reach out to the CHAFA staff, Colorado Housing and Finance Authority, as they are setting up their lending programs through lenders in these approved communities. And that should be coming out very soon. So keep an eye out for that. But we are a resource. If you have questions, we can act as a go-between in the meantime until they get their feet under them. So thanks for attending, and we'll hang out and see if any questions come through.